All right, we're going live here. Got Mad Dawg. Welcome to the Mad Doghouse podcast. Mad Dawg returning live on Labor Day. How we doing today, buddy?
We're doing fine. I guess we are winging this thing. We're live right now, right?
That's right. Hey,
All
appreciate
right.
everybody joining it. Georgia completely blows out, dismantles all the adjectives, 34-3 over Clemson. Great day to be a Dog. Kind of a sluggish first half, 6-0. Defensive struggle, but Mike Bobo and the coaches got it going in the second half, 34-3. So Mad Dawg, how'd it feel around 3:30 on Saturday?
It felt great, but I thought the first half, it was going to be like it was the last time we played Clemson because we only beat them like 10-3. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to be another low scoring game because honestly, I'm going to tell everybody, Clemson may not have done much offensively, but they have got a very good defense. That is a very good defensive team, and it's not easy to get over on them. But Mike Bobo went in the locker room, made the right adjustments, come out. They were moving the ball. Of course, I don't think it helped Dabo at all that two of the receiving touchdowns were from transfers that we received from wide receivers. That's not going to help Dabo's argument at all. But even without Trevor Etienne, I thought the run game worked out very well. I mean, Branson Robinson, he's good, but you could tell he might have been still a little nervous. The person that impressed everybody was Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier came out. He ran 83 yards, and I honestly think he would have gotten another touchdown had he not slipped because he was moving the ball and he was looking confident. One thing about him, he didn't show any fear. He kept driving. Every time he got the ball, he kept driving forward, looking fantastic, just absolutely fearless. To be a true freshman, it's not easy playing a true freshman. And, they did it, and he looked good. I promise you, he was well worth the wait.
He was. I got kind of DeAndre Swift and the way he would lean forward, Zamir White, quicker vibes. What you think about the way he looked? I was excited to see him.
Yeah, I was listening to that with some people who said that he looked like DeAndre Swift in practice. He just doesn't have enough experience, which, I mean, I personally think until the other running back we had, Roderick Robinson, he's got turf toe. We get him back. I mean, think about it. Cash Jones. He showed up and got a touchdown and kept digging. I mean, yeah, he was very impressive to be a walk-on. Of course, he looks like he's been. I mean, have you seen it? You seen a picture of him? He looks like he's been with the program since the Obama administration. Like he looks like he's been there forever. I mean, when I saw him, I was like, how old is he? Somebody check his ID. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, he did a great job. I thought for sure he stepped out of bounds of that play when they reviewed it and looked at it again, and he kept digging. And I don't know if Clemson just, I don't know what happened offensively, but they were going to get a touchdown. But that chop block they made, that low block, that really just shot him in the foot. Yep. It was just really undisciplined on offense, surprisingly. And I know it was. Dabo went back to the locker room, and that was kind of he had to kind of have his tail between his legs when he was sitting there talking about what he had to do and what it was like playing Georgia. But I mean, it is what it is. In this day and age, you either adapt or you die, especially when it comes to the transfer portal. And we're not going backwards. They're not just going to do away with it. Everybody NIL, everybody's making too much money. They're not going to do away with it. So. You either got to get on board or you're going to be left out in the cold. And Dabo's being left out in the cold. And, you saw, he's paying the price for it.
Yeah, completely agree. I had a Clemson guy on last week. And he was really honest. Brian on the Clemson Football Live show.
I saw that.
He was a straight shooter. And he said until Dabo can change with the offense. And if even, Garrett Riley's even calling the plays, he said, I don't think he had full access to all the plays. He said, and Cade Klubnik, I don't think's the guy yet. I hope he improved. But 18 of 29, 142. Phil Mappa seems like a good back, but he doesn't have a burst. And they just didn't do anything. So this is two straight times from 2021 and this meeting that they've had 6 points against Georgia. And they haven't even scored in this decade. And it just kind of shows you, as they were mentioning, is Dabo's kind of, they're not like they used to be, and he's got to change. I don't think he's on the hot seat at all, but kind of if you're a Clemson fan, this is kind of is what it is. It's kind of where you're at as a program.
Yeah,
they're trying to figure out.
Yeah, Dabo's on one of those weird things, like who's on the hot seat, like in Florida coach Billy Napier, he's on the hot seat. I mean, and I love, Arkansas. I love Sam Pittman, Arkansas's head coach. He's on the hot seat, but to me, Dabo's on one of those weird things, kind of like, I don't know, Shane Beamer in South Carolina. It's kind of a weird situation. He's not winning a lot, but he's not really on the hot seat. And then now you got, after that whole thing with LSU last night, I mean, my God, LSU, they practically gave that football game away in the fourth quarter. They just think they had it wrapped up, and it seemed like they just quit. And then, USC come in there and made them pay for it. And it's because of that. And you wonder if Brian Day is on the, not Brian Day, Brian Kelly, sorry. Brian Kelly, you wonder if he's on the hot seat. And I know that sounds absurd, but he hasn't won an opener in 3 years. Like what exactly is, LSU fans? It's just becoming, everything's just becoming like subpar with certain programs, but they're on the fence of, they're not doing that bad to absolutely fire them, but they're not doing that great either. So, you don't think their seats are hot, but that doesn't mean things are not warming up. And people just aren't as patient as they used to be anymore. Fan bases, everybody, nobody's as patient anymore. They want results now. And on some programs, it doesn't matter. You can have just a bowl season and have a bowl game and everybody's happy and everybody goes home and everything's wonderful. But with certain programs like LSU, no, it's not the same way. And Brian Kelly's going to have to figure that out the hard way, but he's going to have to change something. He's got to really turn that program around and do something, because I know LSU fans, and they are not putting up with that.
I agree. Hey, I checked over here. Hey, I guess we got some people actually watching. We got some comments in the chat here. Really appreciate everybody. Coach Hayes, Chris Hayes, what's up, Trey? Go Dogs here. We got from Woods Water and the Mizzou podcast. Watch first 2/3 of the game Saturday, and either Clemson has an elite defensive line or your line isn't as strong as in the years past. Thoughts?
Our offensive line is a little young, but I think they held up pretty well. But Clemson is known for their defensive line. That's like their biggest strong. It's like they're one of their biggest strengths on their team. So I think they are good. I think it might have been a little bit of both, but I think we'll get better as the year goes on when it comes to that. But I think that is a good test for our offensive line, and I think they held up pretty well. They had a couple of sacks, but I think they held up pretty well. And to absolutely come in there and cut your teeth on a defensive line like Clemson's got, right, I think that sets them up for the rest of the season and how it's going to go.
Yeah, I think it was they were elite. Clemson was great. Held Georgia 34 yards in the first half. What I think happened is too many 3-and-outs in the second half, and I think they kind of gassed that a little bit. And also, I think Bobo figured out, hey, we can't run up the middle. Let's try to get these big boys out on the perimeter.
Yes,
started doing some short screens, and he had Nate Frazier who had a burst, and then they kind of leaned on him.
Nate Frazier was cutting. It was insane. Like Kirby told him not to do a certain move or something, and then when he went out there and got it like a 50-yard gain, he kept back on the sideline. He was like, "All right, you can do that. That's fine." Like he shows that burst. And I wasn't there. I had some relatives that were there live. I wasn't there, but they said to see him live, it's kind of like when you watch a NASCAR on TV. They don't look as fast as they do when you're there live watching them. They said to see him live was absolutely incredible. He was fast, and he was coming around the edges. He was awesome. So I'm looking forward to him. And we get Trevor Etienne back, and then we can rotate the two of them in and out. I think our run game will be fine.
Oh yeah, sure. Got Coach Hayes, Chris Hayes. Garrett Riley seems to be handcuffed, and if he's calling, if he's the one calling the plays, then he's got to adapt to. And then throw that stat out. Hey, Georgia smoked TCU. Garrett Riley was coached them 65-7, and then 34-3. So you're looking at 99 to 10 in the last two games. Kirby's figuring it out.
I got a question for you. This is kind of interesting. Anybody else who's listening too, is it harder for an offensive coordinator who becomes a head coach to trust an offensive coordinator, or a defensive coordinator who becomes a head coach to trust an offensive coordinator? Because sometimes the offensive coordinator who becomes a head coach, it's just, they always think, well, I could call the game better, or, that's their whole thing. So I'm wondering if it's harder for them to relinquish, control of the offense, or if it's harder for a defensive minded coach to just say, take over the offense and do it. Cause there's a lot of trust involved on a defensive mind, but it seems like it's not good enough for an offensive minded coach to let an offensive coordinator call the plays. So you never can tell, because that happened a lot of times with certain, like I think Mark Rick and Bobo, when he was there, like sometimes Bobo would call a play and the head coach could just override it. Like, nope, we're not doing that. We're doing this. Right. And I don't know if that's what's happening at Clemson, but they need to definitely figure something out, because they just didn't look as, like, he had some really good throws. Like, he had a really good throw, and they were moving the ball. They just seemed undisciplined. Like, right when they got to the goal line, they just absolutely shot themselves in the foot. It was just, it was really bad. And you can't make those kind of mistakes, especially when you're playing a team like Georgia, Alabama, Texas, anything like that. You can't make those kind of mistakes, because that could cost you the entire game.
Oh, yeah. Completely agree. Yeah, Coach Hayes is actually saying harder for an offensive coordinator becoming a head coach, no doubt. Been in too many of those rooms before. LOL. So,
yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder, because, I mean, the defensive-minded coaches like Kirby sometimes, in the beginning seemed like he was a little stubborn about, a little hard for him to trust an offensive coordinator, because but see, that's not his side of the ball. So there has to be a certain amount of trust, because you have to say, okay, call the plays or whatever. Or here's what I want to do. I want to run the ball. I want to, run it so many times and throw it. And now it's up to you to draw up the game plan. But for an offensive-minded coach, I don't know. I think the same way like Kirby. Kirby was, played, in the secondary, and he was a secondary coach before he became a defensive coordinator. If I was going to be anybody on that football team, as far as coaching, if I was going to be anybody on that staff, I would not want to be the secondary coach, because it seemed like Kirby would be harder on them than they would anything else. Because secondary is his baby. That's what he does. That's what he coaches.
That's right.
So it would seem to me to be more difficult to be a secondary coach for him than it would any other coach on his staff.
Right. Completely agree. Well, yeah, one of the best second half adjustments, and I think it showed you that Clemson didn't make any at all in Dabo. And I like some of the hires the way I thought they had a pretty good offseason with hiring. Like, I like Matt Luke. I don't know if Clemson fans could really tell any difference on the offensive line. And then also they got Chris Rump, who came from the NFL. I think he previously coached at Clemson on the D-line.
Yeah.
So, they were like just in like quicksand on offense. So I don't.
Yeah, I liked Matt Luke too. I thought he was great when he was with Georgia. He needed to take some time. I don't think he wanted to recruit as hard as Kirby wanted to, because with Kirby, you've got to recruit or you just won't fit in on that staff. Right. And evidently, maybe it was more laid back with Dabo. Maybe he needs some time off, and he feel like he still wanted to be a coach. Yeah. I don't know if things are going to be any better for him at Clemson. I hope so. I hope Clemson turns it around. I mean, I hope they have a fantastic season now. Now that we got past them, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I like Dabo Swinney. I think he has a good heart. I think he, is a religious man. He's very good. He's a very good coach to some of the young players. He seems like he cares about the team. But it was like the same way with Mark Rick. Nice guys, it only gets you so far. Your job is to win. Your job is not to be a nice guy and just have a moral victory at the end of the game. Completely agree. They're gonna have to figure that out on what they want to do.
I knew it was a bad time. Did you watch Game Day at all?
Yeah, I watched some of it. Yeah.
Do you remember on Game Day? I mean, it's coming out now that he was on the field, kind of like when they walk around, had a suit on, and he came out and he said, "This game isn't about the scoreboard today. This is how we do against perseverance or whatever." And everybody's just like, "That's what it's all about." Is in the game.
I mean, that's the reason why you have a scoreboard. That's the reason why you have a scoreboard.
Exactly. I think he maybe knew something was coming with Georgia. Like, man, we got Georgia this week, and there was some inkling. Maybe he saw what he had and watching. I don't know, watch the film. I think there was a hint there.
Yeah, I mean, like it's certain times. I think Mark Rick said something one time about everybody wants a ring, but rings don't do anything but collect dust. Yeah, I'm like, no, they actually prove that you won a championship too. They just don't collect dust.
It does.
And spoken like somebody who's probably never gotten one, but people who have them, all they look for is the next one.
Right.
And especially if you get a taste for it. And I think Kirby's had a taste for it, and he is very bummed out that he missed out last year. And I had a feeling he was going to come out and make a statement. Okay. But so here's what Kirby said too. It was absolutely amazing. We still had some people hurt that didn't come in on this game. Imagine what's going to happen as they go along and everybody gets healthy again.
Exactly.
If this is how they played hurt, what do you think they're going to look like when they're 100%? Everybody, it's going to be crazy.
Are you? Great start. And I give a shout out to our sponsor here, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. I think some of the Clemson fans could have some of these to wash the sorrow away and everything.
They probably had a lot of them.
0 carbs, 0 sugar. My favorite's the watermelon. Great for tailgate. Great for the pool, even though that's the end of the pool season. So, yeah, grab it. Doghouse 20 for 20% off. Again, that's Doghouse 20. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Great sponsor of the show. Another thing I wanted to ask, so to get nitpicky, any improvements, because definitely wasn't a complete game, what would you like to maybe see a little more? I know we got Tennessee Tech coming up and then Kentucky on the road.
Tennessee Tech will be a good time to maybe rest some people or get some other young players out there. I'll make a bold prediction about this, and it's going to be kind of embarrassing. And it's not because Kirby's going to be slack, but it may be because he's playing younger players. I would bet that Tennessee Tech scores more points than Clemson did in the opener.
I see that.
I can see that. I mean, not a lot, but I bet you Kirby probably playing a lot of young guys, letting them get out there, see what's going on, and they could score more points than Clemson did in the opener. What I'd like to see cleaned up, I'd like to see them come out of the gate a little hotter next time. It seemed like, I know it was the first game. I can't really critique that. I can't really complain, but I'd like to see the offense come out and jump on people quick. I think that's what they need. Carson Beck's got enough experience, and in the second half, he looked like he was in his groove. He was finding everything. Young in the corner of the end zone, the way he threw that pass was incredible. Oh, yeah. I mean, Humphrey, my God, London Humphrey, his speed, the way the yards after catch. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see Trevor Etienne this time. Maybe they'll let him play this game. I don't know if he'll play the whole game, but I'd very much like to see him again. I hope this was the only game they set him out. I think he's been punished enough.
I agree.
So I'd like to see him come up in this next game for sure.
How about in the other running backs? Because I'm kind of with you. Maybe Branson Robinson didn't have that burst, which I know he's coming off a bad knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the other guys we might see? I think, Chauncey Bowens, 3 carries for 6 yards.
Possibly some of those younger guys could come out. Kirby needs to get them some playing time, because no matter how much you practice, there's nothing that's going to be like that playtime experience when somebody else, because after a while, you can only mimic somebody else's defense coming at you. When you're an offense, when you're running back like that, you need to actually get out there and experience what it's like sometimes when you have to think at a split second and make that turn and make that cut.
Right.
So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more of that for sure.
Yeah, I want to say appreciate all the comments again. This is the first time going live here, so trying to figure all this out. Also, like, subscribe, share the podcast. I really appreciate it. We're growing. I guess get one nitpicky on me I wanted to mention about the game was I know Lawson Lucky had 2 receptions for 37 yards, no catches for
Oscar Dell.
And then Jurasic, I believe that's how he jump off sides one time. So I would like to see maybe more from them in the upcoming games to be picky about everything.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't see anything much about Oscar Dell, but Lawson Lucky had a very big catch.
He did,
and he looked good. He has the size. It's kind of weird. They're kind of a combination of Brock Bowers. He has the size of Brock Bowers, and Oscar Dell has some of the skills of Brock Bowers, but nobody's. I mean, it's a generational talent. You're not going to replace him. All you got to do is just make the adjustments. And any good offensive coordinator realizes, okay, we don't have the weapon we had before. You're just gonna have to make those adjustments. Maybe throw the wide receivers a little more. It doesn't have you don't rely on the tight ends as much, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So I'd like to see more out of them. Yes, Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky. I love the mismatches going on with tight ends. So I'd very much the offensive the offensive penalty they had was on that tight end, that transfer tight end from Stanford. What's his name?
Jurasic, Benjamin or Ben Jurasic.
Yeah. You could tell this was maybe in his first, time in the playing in the SEC the way he did. So I'm sure he'll get a hang of it. But there was one penalty on him. I'd like to see that get cleared up because I think he can contribute to the team as well.
Yeah. Another real quick, what'd you think about all the new rules? We got the quarterbacks with the helmet mics, and then also the 2-minute, old school 2-minute warning, or they're calling it 2-minute timeout. What'd you think about the new added rules?
Yeah, I saw a lot of that. I didn't see much of Carson Beck doing that, but I saw a lot of quarterbacks in all the different openers because I watched all the other games. I saw a lot of that with them putting their hands up to the helmets because they just can't hear. There's got to be. I don't know if they if the speakers don't work that well or what they're going to have to do, but I really would very much like to see if they can fix that because I know it's got to be disconcerting for those quarterbacks because they're trying to hear the play. And they just can't. And the crowd is not going to give you a break especially if you're in an away game. They're not going to care. They want to disrupt you. They don't want you to have a good game. So they're not going to help you out. So they're going to have to figure out technology wise or something to try to figure out how to make it better so they can hear better because it's got to be hard because those guys look like they were really struggling to hear those plays and get the play off on the offense.
Completely agree. And then, some of these games, hey, let's say you get in Neyland Stadium, 100,000 night game, trying to get it in. Or let's just say if there was some bad communication and the mic went out, what are you going to do then? They're going to have to do the old school.
Hand signals or something. They've got to have a backup plan for when the mic goes out because technology is it's going to bite you in the butt. That's going to happen. That is definitely going to happen. There's going to be one game where anything that can go wrong, will go wrong, and then your mic won't work. You're just going to have to get a signal or something. Hand signal, old school. That's just how they. Georgia at one time. Remember now they used to always look to the side and get the play and then come back. I mean, they may have to revert to that. I know they have to practice for that backup contingency because you never can tell if that microphone's going to work or not.
Oh, yeah, completely agree. Yeah, listen to Kirby's press conference earlier. I guess some of the updates on some of the injuries. Is it Mykal Williams, grade 2 strain? He said I don't know if he said the week to week or that. How it always scares me when Kirby says day to day, as he calls it. That could be 3, 4, 5 weeks. So hopefully we get him back. Also, Warren Brinson, contusion, and then some of the other guys cramp. So I think unscathed, but it'd be good to get some of the guys back.
Yeah, and they've got a good medical staff at Georgia. We're gonna work on getting them back, but I wouldn't rush them back too much for next week because it's going to be Tennessee Tech. And I'm not trying to disrespect Tennessee Tech, but it is what it is. You're going to need to save them up when you get to Kentucky. Then you're going to have to go to Alabama. Then you got to play Auburn. Then you got to go to Texas. You're going to need them for that. You're going to need them healthy. So if you could play like that against Clemson, you should be able to be fine with Tennessee Tech next week and rest those guys up and give them another week so that way they can hit the ground running when they go to Kentucky.
Yeah, that's right. And then, hey, even if Mykal Williams isn't ready, hey, sit him for that bye week and have him ready for Alabama if you have to.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that bye week comes at just the right moment because I know everybody always said, you worried about Kirby. Kirby seems to have an Alabama problem. I was like, no, I think he had a Saban problem. He didn't have an Alabama problem. Yeah. And the whole thing with DeBoer, it's going to be so crazy is that when he starts to play the SEC, nobody's going to know what he brings to the table. And, he's not going to know what we're going to bring. It's going to be a complete mystery until you get that first game out of the way. And unfortunately, that first game is going to be Georgia. It's going to be his first SEC opponent. So we'll see how that goes and how the SEC kind of breaks him into the conferences, see how it works.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, appreciate Terry Bulk down here. Dog time. That's right. Go Dogs, man. Appreciate you joining live here. I guess also want to touch on any recap or any games that stuck out. Did want to mention Miami putting the whooping on Florida.
Oh, God.
41-17. So I wanted to ask, does he even make it to the Georgia game? Does he make it off the after Georgia puts the whipping on him? I mean, how many more games does Sunbelt Billy Napier have?
I tell you, I had so much hope, and I mean this sincerely. I had so much hope that he might be able to make a pretty good showing, even during that game or even for the rest of the season. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. I had a lot of Gator people I know, and they're all like, "No, some Billy's going to be fine this year. We're going to be better than you think." And that first game just did not. It did not look. It didn't. It's not looking good for him. I mean, I don't know how much rumor this is. I heard he got into it with a mascot before he ran out of the tunnel.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that would be insane if that was a truth. I mean, it just seems like it's just an absolute catastrophe for Napier in Florida, and I didn't want that to happen. But if it continues and he goes down this road, they will not put up with it. He will not make it, and I don't know who they would get. My first guess is what everybody else thinks too. They're going to throw every dime they have at Lane Kiffin. If they fire Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin is the first phone call they make. I think Lane would be. I don't want him to go there because I like Lane and I don't like Florida, so I don't necessarily want him to go there. It could be kind of strange, but it'd make the cocktail party more interesting. And with him being down there in a state where he could recruit, because he's not that way with Mississippi, it's just not a very good hotbed for like talent. So he has to rely on the transfer portal. You imagine his knowledge of the transfer portal being in a state where recruiting is very good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think Lane would probably work out fantastic there. I don't want it to happen, but it is what it is. That would be the first phone call I make is to Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm gonna go conspiracy here because everybody's gonna say, "How about Dion? Would he get a call at all?" Because I think
No, I don't know what the deal is with Dion. Dion's acting weird to the press. It just seems like the whole, the whole glamour with Dion's wearing off. I don't know if he makes it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Dion, but I don't think that it's going to work out with him there. I think he's just worried about getting his kids in the NFL, and I don't think he cares much after that. And the thing is, I like Dion. I think he's got he's a great coach. And he's got a tremendous personality, but the little quirkiness and his crazy ways, the way he's acting right now, it's just not looking good. It's kind of wearing low on everybody. Everybody's getting kind of tired of it now.
Completely agree. Plus, he's good. He's getting guys at the skill position, but he's not getting the guys in the trenches. And as we know, they'll get you beat against the big boys.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of the other games: Alabama rolled 63-0. Ole Miss 76-0. A lot of cupcake games, Sisters of the Poor, as they call them, School of the Blinds.
Oh, yeah. My high school is usually what they're playing. I mean, those games are fine, and everybody goes, and everybody gets all excited. Oh, look how great they did. Yeah, they did great, but they're supposed to. If you didn't hang 50 on some of those teams, I think it's unnecessary that Lane hung 70 on them. But I mean, Lane's just going to be Lane. But if you don't do that, then what exactly are you doing? It's just like. It's like getting in a fight with a 9-year-old kid and like, why'd you let him hang around? Why don't you just knock him down? Like, it should be over. Like, exactly. I don't understand why people get all excited when their team beats a cupcake team. And I'm like, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. One of them that was really surprised to me was Oregon hanging around with or Idaho hanging around with Oregon. That was a little ugly. 24-14 at Oregon. They weren't even ranked. That was kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. Even though if you look at the stats, they didn't all add up. Like Dylan Gabriel, 2 touchdowns, 380 yards, didn't turn the ball over, but they couldn't run the ball. So anyway, that was an interesting one, 24-14 against Idaho. The potato.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I mean, Shane Beamer, like he only won his game by like what, 4 points?
Old Dominion.
Yeah, I mean, like really? I mean, that game he should have walked away with that game too. That doesn't look good for how his season is going to turn out if he can't even beat a cupcake team by more than 4 points. I don't see how well he's going to. He's like I said, he's one of those weird ones where he's not doing terrible, but he's not quite doing what he's supposed to be doing, and his seat's not hot, but it's getting warm.
Yeah, you kind of go back to what is South Carolina? What's their expectations? I've always kind of seen them as like a 6, 7, maybe 8-4 team, but it just kind of depends.
To beat Clemson, I think that might be their expectation. They just want to beat Clemson at the end of the year.
Well, I'm about to say after Saturday. might have a good chance, but I know that's tell two teams.
No. I mean, I honestly think Dabo and that offense. I mean, they could regroup. They could completely turn it around. Think about what Oregon did after that opener when we beat them as bad as we did.
Oh yeah.
Think about how the season they had after that. Clemson could do the same thing. Clemson could absolutely be outstanding and win the ACC and get in the playoffs. That could happen. I doubt they win it all. I don't think, Dabo's not going to win it all, but I mean, he can make a good showing at the end of the year and at least make the playoffs.
Yeah. And another one, looking at the stats for Georgia, 40, think about it, 40 straight regular season wins. That's crazy. A lot of people can't say that.
Yeah. I said last year, right before the Alabama game, I was like, do you realize they've only lost 2 games in 3 years? Like, how does that even make sense? Mm-hmm. Like that, you can't. When you say that out loud, it almost seems like, it's a stat that you're like, good Lord. Like, what does Kirby do? How does Kirby keep them doing that? Because it's hard to teach, people to be humble when they just win all the time. And how do you constantly teach them that, some team can sneak up and bite you in the butt when you're the majority of the time you're winning? I think that hats off to Kirby and that staff to keep them like eating off the floor, as they love to say. They love to say, we'll keep them eating off the floor. You got to keep them hungry enough. I mean, so I think it's a great thing that he motivates them the way he does. Like Kirby said, I think at SEC Media Days, that team will be the best team we play that week because that's all we're concentrating on is that week. Because you can't look too far ahead. You can't overlook anybody. Nobody at any given time. You have to take it week by week. I know that may be cliche, but it's true. If you just concentrate on winning every week, by the end of the year, you'll be fine.
Completely agree. And the way I always says, I like the saying, humility is 1 week away.
That's right. It is. It's always a week away. You never can tell what's going to happen. Every Saturday is every Saturday. You have no idea what's going to happen. There could be a team come out of nowhere that hasn't won a lot of games at all, come out of nowhere and have one of the best games ever against you, and you beat them by a touchdown. Now, I don't know how that happens, but it does. And those kind of teams sneak up on you. So you have to be prepared for that and do not overlook anybody.
Completely agree. I got the tail end last night. I was kind of busy with my girlfriend and I was her family last night, but I caught the tail end. Man, that USC LSU game, that was a really good one. But I know LSU kind of choked at the end. And, man, Brian Kelly, he was hitting it on that post-conference, and you can tell he was angry. I think he's feeling it.
I think he is too. And I think he's frustrated because he realizes that in that fourth quarter, they basically, they were basically – they gave it with that targeting call. Like, how undisciplined was that? You're trying to stop them from moving the ball. You just give them 15 yards? Yeah. Like what exactly are you thinking there? I think the defense looked undisciplined right there at the end, and I don't know if they just thought they had that game in the bag because they tied it, but there was too much time on that clock, and what he needed to do and what he didn't do was he kept doing the hurry up, and there was some time during that game he needed to slow that clock down, and he needed to make some run plays. And once you slow the ball, slow the game down a little bit, you'll find out that you'll have a better chance at winning it sometimes than just all this hurry up. You put yourself in a shootout situation and you give the other team too much time to come back at the end, and that's what happened.
Completely agree. Like I think you mentioned earlier, they've lost. Is it 2 or 3 straight?
Openers. I think they've lost the last 3 openers, which is insane for LSU. Like that's nuts. They need to get a cupcake team. I don't know why they keep giving them these openers where they play somebody big on Sunday night during Labor Day weekend. But if anybody's in desperate need of a cupcake team to open up with, it's LSU.
Oh, yeah. Completely agree. And then tonight here in a little bit, Boston College against Florida State. Florida State coming off that laying that egg, and Ireland against Georgia Tech.
What a game that was. What a game.
16.5-point spread. DJU, as I was calling him, Jag, just another guy.
Yeah. He's just – I don't think they figured out who they are, their identity offensively yet. I think they thought they could just put him in there and it'd be the same as it was last year. And I think during that game with Georgia Tech, they were trying to be something they weren't. And Georgia Tech was just staying true to who they were. They were going to smash mouth, run the ball, put it in your face, control the clock, And I said it when they had 6 minutes left at the end of the game. I was watching it with a friend of mine. I said, they're going to eat this time up. They're going to go down the field. They're either going to score a touchdown or they're going to get in field goal range and win this ball game. And that's exactly what they did, because that is what you do when you run the ball. You completely control the clock. You grind the game down to a halt, and you win. That you don't score real fast and give the other team an opportunity or 2 or 3 minutes to actually come back and score against you. You eat up all that time. You keep converting on third down. Put yourself in third and short. You convert those third downs, and you just keep driving. That's when you grind the game down, and that's what happened. That's what they did. Their time of possession was incredible in that fourth quarter. Georgia Tech did exactly what they've always done, and you've got to, hats off to them. And Florida State, I know one thing: they better win this game tonight. They absolutely need to win this game tonight, or their fans are going to really be calling for somebody's head.
Yeah, not Mike Norvell. I think I looked it up. He's like 31-18, 31-19 so far. So depends on your thoughts on. I know they almost made the playoffs last year, and then Georgia smoked them and humbled them. I think there was too many distractions in the offseason, trying to sue people, going after Kurt Herbstreit, still complaining about the Georgia, against Georgia we saw our players. I think there was too much distraction off the field. But we'll see. We still got you there, Mad Dog. Hope you didn't freeze. Well, I don't know if we got Mad Dog froze here. Well, we really appreciate everybody on the stream here. I want to give a shout out to Mad Dog. He's got another Doggone podcast. Please check him out. Also, he has great graphics. If you haven't seen any of his, here it is. Here's his latest podcast, which is another Doggone podcast. He had the Ole Misses last week. Also, his graphics are great if you check him out. He had Happy Labor Day, but check him out on social media. He's got a lot of stuff going on. So I really appreciate everyone joining our first live stream tonight and everything. But hopefully we'll have more content. Going to have Big Dog Brett coming up this week. He'll be previewing the Tennessee Tech game and other Week 2 games. So I really appreciate everybody going. And make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast, Doghouse. And we really appreciate the support and all the messages. Thanks so much.